October 4th meeting of the HVAC Building Committee. Start standing for the pledge. Excuse me. Pledge of allegiance to the flag, United States of America, the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
I did not see any meeting minutes routed. So
Looking through what's come in, and I don't recall. I had no issues with those that came in, but I don't remember if we had a 920 or not. We do have a 920. Joe, did you get a chance to look through them?
I don't recall if I saw them either. Well, obviously, if I don't remember seeing them, I didn't look through them.
No issues, or you didn't get them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just defer this item. I will make sure to distribute it for the next meeting. We can go back to the minutes. So let's move on to project updates.
well, the first one is that I kind of switched it around so we don't tie up the estimators the whole time. But we do have the DD, or the design development estimate and budgets. And in a nutshell, we kind of went down on a lot of them. Or we went down on 2 of the 4, I should say, significantly. And the estimate is a little bit more on the 2 smaller projects by 600,000, but we went down 25 million on Ludlow. Now the numbers that I've kind of shown here in the schematic design, these are from the waterfall. These are the numbers in the waterfall. So take them with the grain of salt that they are. They are not the same numbers that were presented to the committee prior, just because in the waterfall, we kind of shifted the projects around. So, and also we included in our fees and expenses prior, we did not have the OPM's fees in there. So, and these include it. The other item of note that I want to, this DD estimate is based on the schedule that is also in the waterfall, and kind of just showing you here where we are going with Tomlinson first, looking to get out next summer. And then the Board of Ed has looked at it and would like to go with Dwight, and Jennings kind of pushing Ludlow, Ward, and Walter Fitzgerald into the 30s. So this is what was approved by the BOE and brought to the Capital Summit. So just giving you some reference on the schedule.
And Mark, the DD numbers that you showed us a moment ago in the summary,
Yep,
they reflect the inflationary kickers based on the Gantt chart you just showed. So they're in alignment.
Correct. That schedule was shared with Gilbane, and Gilbane took into account the schedule to the mid. They escalated the projects to the midpoint of construction.
Okay. Is that Gantt chart in the estimate packets that you sent out, or that was online, or no? Just the detailed numbers. Seeing them.
I put it in this morning. I will put it in the OneDrive. If I can't get to it during the meeting, I will get to it right afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So you have the budget number summary on the OneDrive,
correct,
not the Gantt chart. Okay.
Yeah, and I added the 2 lines comparing the schematic design this morning. So I'll also put this
Okay.
PDF on there also in place.
Okay. So from an
Well,
estimating
with that,
perspective of phases 2 through 5, we are complete unless there's some additional variations or questions, scenarios that are asked for. What if we move this school in front of that school or whatever, and there would be some math to be done there. But generally speaking, I believe that the charge of this building committee to complete the DD for 2 through 5 is complete. Am I missing anything? Does that statement ring true for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as you
Good.
indicated, Jeff, the escalation is best projection. Some schools go up 20, 31, and 32.
Yeah.
We've carried what we feel the escalation is necessary, but barring any situations, we obviously didn't take that into account. Any potential.
No, I understand. And if
Yeah.
HVAC equipment goes through a 30% tariff or something, it's going to drive up the price of
Exactly.
materials. Sure.
Right.
correct.
No, but there's nothing more to do at this point unless the BOE or town asks for some scenarios. We're complete. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we want to go through the numbers on the construction side, or are we good with them as with the information provided?
It's the same.
The summary.
It's the same format that we presented at the schematic level. It's pretty much the same layout. Mike Bonacontra is one of our estimators online with us here. It's totally up to the building committee's choice whether they want to go through it. It's generally speaking, this estimate represents more details.
Yep.
Because we received more drawings, more details, and the timeline, as Mark presented earlier, that kind of took that into consideration. Other than that, it's traditional takeoff quantification of the documents we got from BL.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Maybe just to highlight for the record why we had such big swings on some of the schools. I mean, the minor ones, I assume, were just, I get it. There's modifications, tweaks here and there, but
I believe one of them is square footage. As you can see, for example, we can kind of take a quick look. Tomlinson generally stayed the same. It's really came down to Ludlow. Ludlow, we had anticipated in the schematic was going to be 205. We're only doing about 123,000. So that's a significant reduction, about $13 million in trade. You could see that. Well,
the big swing on those spaces was the gyms, the 2 gyms in the auditorium were counted in the schematic design, the square footage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was those spaces were taken out. I mean, we're still doing work in them, and the work is still accounted for, but it is, the gyms are similar to what is happening at Tomlinson, where it's a rooftop replacement and ductwork.
Right.
Okay.
That's really the biggest swing. You can kind of see it. The other schools generally stayed the same. So that was really, with all the markups and everything else and the escalation, it added up quite a bit. That was really the biggest reduction.
Yeah, I think we kind of increased our abatement and hazmat removal allowances for each of the schools based on what we're seeing in phase 1. And then Mike Parents, our chief estimator, he worked on plumbing, HVAC, electrical. He was able to kind of do full takeoffs, get some gear, some equipment quotes. So he was able to kind of hone in some of those numbers. So abatement and hazmat kind of went up a little bit, and the mechanical trades kind of came down a little bit to, like Amar said, pretty much even out to that Ludlow reduction, just based on being able to quantify the scope in there instead of just making some high level per square foot assumptions.
Right.
And those large areas like the gyms are already have heating and cooling, and the equipment is deemed sufficient and new enough that it's not part of the scope.
We're swapping the units only above the roof line, basically.
Yeah, so we're
swapping the units. Okay.
Yeah, we're not messing with any architectural finishes, any distribution duct. I think it's just a 1-for-1 swap. Mike, if he was on, could talk about it a little more detailed, but I'm pretty sure that's all it is.
And if something was installed, what is the life expectancy that we put on these units? 20 years?
20
an
to
estimate.
25 years max, I would say, on those units
And
typically.
with the deferrals to 2030, there's no new units drop into the time to be replaced mode. Everything's either being hit now or there's no spikes
I would
that
have
come
to
up in
defer
2030.
that to Sal as far as the current condition of the existing unit, the life expectancy. I don't know if Jesse's on the call, maybe he can give you a better feedback on that.
I mean, from an engineering perspective, I think if you're talking about the next 3 to 4 years, I think you just replace anything that might have a major problem. I don't think you proactively do anything. In my opinion, it's too much money to do that proactively unless.
No, I guess what I was asking, Jesse, is, if you're doing an estimate today to do the project, you'd say, okay, that unit is only 15 years old, and we're not going to replace it. Everything's happy, and we're going to move along. To your point, if it breaks, obviously.
Mhm.
But if we defer a project 5 years out, 6 years out, that unit that's deemed totally acceptable today is now deemed end of life in 5 or 6 years. So by deferring some of these projects, are we going to be picking up any additional equipment that is good today, but not deemed good enough in 6 years, or deemed targeted for replacement? And that's going to drive. I'm just worried about all of a sudden AEP coming in for 200 grand because we have to replace an existing unit that was fine in 2024, but not fine in 2032.
Honestly, thinking about the different schools right now, it's kind of easy. The two small projects, Tomlinson and Walter Fitzgerald, the scope is defined and small enough that our scope of work on the project doesn't really impact the rest of the building. So it's kind of easy to say it's a totally separate issue, and because we're only, like Tomlinson, we're only doing the 3 gyms. So it's like everything else on the building is totally different, and that would be I think you can almost ignore that piece. Walter Fitzgerald, same thing, and those units aren't expensive there anyway if they had to be replaced. The 2 high schools obviously are the bigger piece because they're more expensive. There's a couple units at Ward that are questionable in terms of functionality, but when we're talking sorry, I didn't see the exact price here, but we're trade cost 24 million on Ward there. If we have to add another just 1-for-1 rooftop replacement, that's not a huge cost in comparison, because the other units we're doing a full duct work, we're doing ceilings, electrical. If we're doing a 1-for-1 rooftop replacement for, like, I know this one unit, I'm thinking of it in my mind, it's like a 6-ton unit. It's not a huge expense. It's going to even fit in the contingency here, without any problem.
And just to jump in, and I think that Mike and Mark can speak to this. Once you're going out that far, you're going to have a couple of things happen. You're going to have to reassess the escalation that was assumed. I mean that's a number out of the air, and Jesse and his team would need to re-interview the maintenance staff to see what things that have been done. There might have, in the interim, there might be a pressing case made just to take on a 1-space retrofit, and scope is pulled out of the project. You're looking at the other portion. Yeah, are other things going to get older and we need to replace them? And Jesse just spoke to that. So while you're at 100% DD, there's going to be more than likely a retrospective look at what you have in front of you to make sure that you're buying the right stuff and all your numbers are correct. So there's really good numbers in the waterfall for these projects, as best as we can say. But actually going to take something to bid, there'll be one step back, look at the landscape that you have, numbers, the scope, any change to conditions, and put that back in and then proceed forward. it- and get the correct funding and have the correct scope 5 years from now, 6 years.
Understood and agreed. I just, yeah, just any known, if we know that something's going to age out in 6 years, then it would be
Mhm.
appropriate to include that as a known replacement. So that's where it's going.
Keep in mind, obviously, this is DD, so there'll be another effort, which is the CD estimate. So once we move forward on any particular project, we'll have to do another effort, which is the CD estimate, and that will be very similar to a lot more details, obviously, a lot more fine tuning of the numbers.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll incorporate the appropriate escalation at the time of estimate.
Yeah. No, understood. I just, again, we're just trying to, I'm just trying to mitigate any of those surprises that Mr. Lee has to take back to his board.
One thing I just want to, and I don't know, Mark, as far as owner contingency, what are you carrying for percentage on these projects at DD level?
We're
Percentage?
carrying
what do you
8%.
8%?
8%.
These numbers we're using for the DD estimate, I'm sure there weren't huge variances in the budget bids you got from the contractors, but are you going with always the lowest number, or are you averaging the 3 or 4 contractor numbers, or are you picking their highest number on the conservative side?
We
So
have
most
not
of, yeah,
bid
go ahead,
any,
Mark.
just for clarity purposes, this is an estimate, has no bids from any trades. We received some trades input on
Mhm.
some equipment, on some systems, but this is not a bid where we went out and sent all the drawings and received estimates or bids. That's not,
Yeah.
that happens when we actually finish the construction documents and we formally go out to bid. That's when that process starts. So there's really
Mhm.
the subs input in this phase of the estimate is really limited, very, very limited in terms of getting pricing on units, maybe
Mhm.
controls. Really, that's about the level of input from the sub. There's really no bids. There's not much we can bid with it because it's still, call it 60% design document.
Right.
It's not a full design.
Yeah, at this stage, subcontractors just don't have the time to really sharpen their pencils and get into it. If me and Mike went out for pricing, this number would probably be 20% higher because subs are just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Right.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. And that's
Okay.
why there is a design contingency. I don't know if we
Right.
hit on that one. Right now, there's 5% design contingency in every school. And
Mhm.
that design contingency gets zeroed out once we finish the CD effort. Basically, what that tells you, there's still some design elements missing, and we kind of
Sure.
roll that up into the trades when we do the CD estimate.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, Joe, on the anywhere else you want to dive into?
No, I mean it's DD. You can't put too much faith in anything
Right.
at this point. So,
At the Board of Ed meeting that we attended, they talked about the cone of uncertainty as you go from FD down to, basically final cost. It's the contingency and the variability decreases. So
Sal, I never saw your pretty pictures, by the way, if you made one. So, all right. So moving on then, Chair recognizes Mr. Lee. Do you have any additional questions? Caught him off guard. Okay. You can post in the chat if he does. All right, let's move on to project updates for phase 1.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, everybody. Which Schweitzer? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
no, go ahead, Mark.
We got two
Tag
more.
on after.
Go, Mark Gilbane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I I think I went a little premature last meeting because I think you were waiting for Schweitzer. So, but anyway, starting with Osborne, we did begin our phase 2 demo of Osborne on Monday 9:30. We started in the corridors, and we will be complete with corridors on schedule, starting classrooms, starting with classroom number 12. We also have at North Stratfield, we have been in classrooms this week, and also at Fairfield Woods, same thing. Classroom demo continues each night, and we were on schedule to, I believe it's October 15th, to be complete with demo at North Stratfield and Fairfield Woods. Osborne a little bit further down because we did start a little later. We've had inspections every morning, and inspections for life safety with the building department and fire marshal, and everything has been fine. So occupancy has been ongoing. So everything is on schedule, and we're continuing to work second shift for the time being.
Do we have any additional interfacing with the electric company for phase 1?
As far as additional work, we have one thing going on at Fairfield Woods on election day, where we have to continue bringing sweeps, the final pipes up to the pole at that point. So it's a little bit of work on our part with having UI there and our electrical contractor, as well as Dalling, our site contractor, to do a little bit of digging.
Okay. Obviously, I'm asking because it tends to be one of our biggest ATP generators, right? So it's a question of, I was just wondering what we were looking at. Okay. Anything else, Mark?
No,
Mark?
unless anyone has any questions. Thank you.
I do not. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark S., any other comments from you on
Nope.
phase 1?
I have nothing to add.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So moving on to approvals. We have no ATPs, which I guess echoes the fact that
No
everything's going
ATPs.
swimmingly.
We are onto the invoice packets. It is essentially, we have eight invoices. 5 of them are from Gilbane between Osborne, North Stratfield Roof, Woods, and then the phase 2 through 5 pre-con. We also have Continental Casualty. This is one of the interim payments for the builder's risk. And then Tri-State Materials, these two are for Woods for the concrete work out there between the electrical room and the, well, basically just the electrical room.
Okay.
So the total on this is $1,421,292.17.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept Gilbane invoices number 006 dated 9/30/2024 in the total amount of $1,357,868.80.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Not for me.
Okay. Hearing none, all in agreement?
Aye.
Motion passes. Second is a motion to accept the Gilbane Pre-Con Phase 2 through 5, invoice number 202410-J030, dated 10/4/2024, in the amount of $48,019.02.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Third, we have a motion to accept the invoice from Continental Casualty Company Invoice number 2409180 dated 9/18/2024 in the amount of $12,130.35.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, I'll make a motion. I'm going to group these two together, but the two invoices from Tri-State Materials Testing, TSMT 14180 and TSMT 14265, dated 8/16/2024 and 9/27/2024, respectfully, and totaling $3,274.
I'll second the motion.
Hearing any discussion? Discussion, I should say. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. Old business. Tim has asked us to defer on the concrete encasement discussion until he's back, which is next meeting. Any updates on the wood tunneling for electric use?
Yep, we are waiting on a proposal from the hazmat to get in front of you if, to do the survey to make sure there's no hazardous materials in the tunnels that they did not previously, survey those tunnels. So it will be, getting the proposal from Woodward and Kern.
What's the rough estimate for that, Mark? Any idea?
I do not have,
What does that usually take? Is that scheduled? Is that something that's weeks out, months out?
yeah, no, it's, once we get the proposal, they normally do the survey within the week, and then probably a week after that, week to 2 weeks, we have the report. So, it's probably under $5,000 for the survey.
Okay. And the last item on old business I had is the any updates in North Stratfield and the existing heating system work?
Mark, still there?
Yep.
If you can give an update on the efforts there.
Yeah, so they've gone in and they went to make sure that everything was up and running. Last check with Ferguson Mechanical is that they did run tests and everything seems to be working right now. So that's a good thing, and they'll continue to monitor to make sure, because we are coming up to heating season at this point. But everything seems to what the efforts that they've put in have seemed to been working, and we should have heating going on and controlled by thermostats this heating season.
Yeah, the additional authorization that the building committee authorized really pertains to the actual control valves in the rooms. So they are continuing that effort, and we'll have a better update probably by the next meeting as to where they are with it. Okay.
All right.
Jeff, I do have one item at some point when you.
All right. Any other old business? Joe, anything from you?
Nothing from me.
Okay. So moving on to new business. Yes, Amar.
Mark, as it pertains to the vestibules, has contracts or purchase orders been issued to the subs? Like to have a kickoff meeting with them to kind of talk through their submittals, their contract, and how we're going to deal with some of these alternates transfers to them. I just want to be able to kind of have a road map, if you will. Do you know if contracts were let out or purchase orders?
I know Lee and Adam are on the call. I'll defer to them. It was coming out of their office to issue. I have not seen them, but that doesn't mean they were not issued.
Can you let me know, because I'd like to have a kickoff
Yep.
meeting with them to kind of go over the
Yep.
scope and what we need to do, please?
Yes, we'll do.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Is the glass considered a long lead item?
Yeah, the ballistic, absolutely. Yeah.
I assumed so. So
It is
So to
Yeah.
get
during the scoping meeting.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
They had plenty of time on the scoping meeting to get it here. Let me I'll
It
need
takes
to track
about
that down. But
12 to 16 weeks to get the ballistic glass. So you're talking about 3 to 4 months. But we need to go through shop drawings, submittals, all that stuff before we can release the glass. So we want to make sure we get a jump start on that and we don't get.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That was
Okay.
actually on my list, Mar as well. So thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Jumped the gun on you.
No. I validate my ignorance here. All right. Any other new business?
Good, thank you.
All right, Joe, you good?
Yep.
All right. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Thank you,
weekend,
everybody. Have an
Thanks,
awesome
everyone. Have a good
weekend.
weekend.